Recently, I heard Zack Snyder talk about his love for The Dark Knight Returns and how it influenced his creative process for Batman v Superman. Like most of the people on the internet, his comments on making Batman a killer got a bit of a reaction from me. He stated that Batman killed someone in The Dark Knight Returns, whereas a bunch of other DC fans said that he didn't. I honestly couldn't remember if he did or didn't, so I went back and read The Dark Knight Returns again. What's interesting about this is that Batman kind of did and did not become a killer. While a criminal was holding an innocent at gunpoint, Batman fired an assault weapon at the criminal to save the person's life. It was later revealed on the news from the reporter Lana Lang that nobody died on that crime scene. Given the fact that Lana Lang was not there at the crime scene, who knows? Batman might have killed that criminal. Regardless of whether or not Batman killed that criminal, I think we can all agree that The Dark Knight Returns is a revolutionary piece of art. This of course got me thinking, what makes The Dark Knight Returns so special? In this video, I'm going to go over what makes The Dark Knight Returns so spectacular, and hopefully after watching this video, you'll have all of the tools you need to create a groundbreaking story of your own. But before we move on, please be sure to like and subscribe to Reverb Comics. You do not want to miss out on our awesome content. Before we get into why The Dark Knight Returns is so spectacular, I'll go over the plot of this story in case you are not familiar. The Dark Knight Returns takes place in a dystopian version of Gotham. When the story picks up, Bruce Wayne is a 55-year-old man who is retired from being Batman for 10 years following the death of Jason Todd. As a consequence of this, crime is running rampant in Gotham thanks to a gang called the Mutants. Eventually, Bruce decides to give in to his dark temperaments and suits up as Batman once again to fight criminals. Like all great Batman stories, Batman goes on to fight new foes and familiar villains. Batman goes on to defeat Harvey Dent, whose mind is completely warped into the Two-Face persona, the leader of the mutant gang, the Joker, who he later paralyzes, and a version of Superman who now serves the White House. At the end of the story, the US government orders Superman to arrest Batman. This prompts Bruce to use the help of an aged Oliver Queen, his new sidekick Carrie Kelly, and a variety of technological innovations to fight Superman. Just as he's about to beat Clark, Bruce has a heart attack and appears to die. What actually happened is that Bruce staged his death using a chemical that suspended his vital signs. Later on, Bruce is found underground, leading Carrie Kelly, Oliver Queen, and the rest of his followers to fight the war on crime. Now that we more or less know the plot of The Dark Knight Returns, let's dive into why this graphic novel is so special. Number 1. The Dark Knight Returns cleverly reinvents the character. Batman is like this quasi-Shakespearean character in the sense that you can characterize Bruce Wayne in a lot of different ways, and yet the story will still be fantastic. Christian Bale's Batman was very grounded, and those Batman stories focused more on his deep anger issues as well as his limitations and flaws. Kevin Conroy's Batman in the Batman the Animated Series wasn't really a playboy and took an active role in Wayne Enterprises. He also displayed much more compassion than any other Batman I've seen. Dennis O'Neil's run on Batman was also very grounded, as we got to see a version of Bruce who suffered from drug addiction after being traumatized from not being able to save a young girl in the Batman Venom story arc. And Grant Morrison gave us this larger-than-life version of Batman as he single-handedly took down the entire Justice League in the Tower of Babel storyline. It goes without saying that The Dark Knight Returns gives us a completely different yet interesting take on the character. When the story picks up, it's revealed that Bruce Wayne and Batman are two different entities that are competing to take control of the body. That's right, it's heavily implied that Bruce has dissociative identity disorder. Bruce Wayne is presented as the calm and mild-tempered persona, whereas Batman is depicted as the ruthless, cunning, and brutal side of Bruce's psyche. Bruce tried his best to keep his temptations under control, but ultimately let Batman take over as Gotham fell deeper and deeper into chaos. Fun fact, this narrative choice complemented what happened to Batman in real life. Thanks to the Comics Code Authority in the 1950s and Adam West's Batman TV show in the 1960s, Batman gained a reputation for being lighthearted and campy. In the 1970s and 1980s, the editors at DC Comics tried to move Batman more towards his dark and brooding nature. But anyways, back to my point, it's pretty amazing how Batman goes through a complete identity change at the beginning of the story. He goes from a tired and passive 55-year-old man to a powerful force of nature that is Batman. There was a nice parallel between his identity realization and Harvey Dent's. Similar to Bruce, Harvey did everything he could to suppress his dark side. He went through rehabilitation, he got facial reconstruction surgery, and mostly gained everyone's trust to get back into society. Even though he did everything he could to keep his inner demons at bay, the dark truth is that there was just no getting rid of his shadow. The monster that is Two-Face is the truth inside Harvey Dent, just as the Bat is the truth inside Bruce Wayne. In an awesome and epic confrontation between Batman and Two-Face, Batman saves the day and stops Two-Face's forces of chaos. In a weird way, they kinda acknowledge and reconcile with one another. When Two-Face admits defeat and tells Batman to take a look at him, Batman tells him that he sees a reflection. Batman coming to terms with his individuality is one of the many awesome character developments that Bruce goes through in the story, which leads me to my next point. Number 2, the complex character development. In most stories, the main character starts out in their zone of comfort, then they go on a journey to get what they want. By adapting and paying the price for getting what they want, they go through some sort of change. What makes Batman's character development so amazing here is that he changes in a lot of different ways and his progression isn't exactly perfect, much like how people progress in real life. Like I mentioned before, Batman came to terms with his individuality after confronting Two-Face. He went from being an old and passive member of society to a fully realized symbol and force of nature that is Batman. In my opinion, Frank Miller did some really interesting things with the character when he faced off against the leader of the mutants. To me, the mutants represented the dangers of mob mentality. Not much is known about their leader, but I assume he gained his following by showing them that he's at the top of the food chain and giving them permission to act on their dark temperaments. Frank Miller really highlighted Batman's significance as he used the character to stop a very angry and violent mob. Hence, Batman changed once again as he went from being just an individual to an individual who went about his moral pursuit against the immoral collectivist tide. I'll get back to this thought later in the video. Later, the Joker resurfaces as the ultimate form of chaos. He gets the Toyman's help to launch a full-scale terrorist attack on Gotham. Now, here's where things get interesting. It's heavily implied that Batman planned on killing the Joker. In the moments leading up to their final confrontation, Batman's inner thoughts revealed that he plans on doing something pretty brutal to the Joker. Yet, as innocent civilians run away thinking that Batman's gonna kill the Joker, he realizes that he's just not a killer. Batman ultimately settles for paralyzing the Joker from the neck down, to which the Joker responds to by twisting his neck in a way that leads to his own demise. I really like this moment Batman had with the Joker as it really highlighted his imperfections as a character. Despite how he took down Two-Face, the mutants, and the Joker, he still had a lot of difficulties wrestling with his urge to kill the Agent of Chaos. I think it's safe to say that he also had trouble resisting his urge to kill that criminal who held an innocent at gunpoint. As a consequence of everything that happened, Batman gets framed for the Joker's murder. Batman's vigilantism led the President of the United States to order Superman to find and arrest Batman. Now, as I mentioned before, this led to a big confrontation between the two characters. Batman got the help of Oliver Queen and Carrie Kelly and used a wide array of technology to almost defeat Superman before faking his heart attack and starting his underground movement called the Sons of Batman. Again, his character development wasn't perfect here, but that's part of what makes it so great. Even though he didn't exactly win the fight against Superman, going toe-to-toe with a god and holding your ground is pretty epic. Plus, faking his death was the best move for Batman as A, Superman and other authority figures would have came back after anyways to take him in, and B, now that the public thinks that he's dead, he's free to do whatever he wants without dealing with the authority. Plus, he wasn't going to kill Superman as, even though he may not agree with him, he's smart enough to realize that he's a net force for good. Also, I think it's safe to say that he just respects his old friend despite knowing how misguided he truly is. All in all, there's no other story like this. His confrontation with Two-Face is a man versus man conflict. His fight with the mutants is a man versus mob story. His last encounter with the Joker is a man versus chaos tale, and his final battle is a man versus god showdown. His progression, even though it's not perfect, is really epic. This is a really amazing way to develop Batman. And if you ask me, Having him wrestle with his dark temptations to kill grounded this story in a way that really helped us connect with Bruce. What also made Batman such an awesome character is the fact that Frank Miller pretty much turned Batman into a Randian hero. For those of you who don't know, Ayn Rand is a famous writer and philosopher who developed a philosophical system she named Objectivism. She described it as the concept of man as a heroic being with his own happiness as the moral purpose of his life, with productive achievement as his noblest activity and reason as his only absolute. Her first literary success, The Fountainhead, features a young architect who fights against conventional standards against an establishment unwilling to accept his innovations. The main character embodies what Rand believed to be the ideal man. That is, an individual who goes about his moral pursuit against the collectivist tide. This belief that individualism is superior to collectivism is embodied in The Dark Knight Returns. Batman fits a Randian hero to a T, as he refuses to abandon his moral pursuits despite the forces such as Two-Face, the mutants, the Joker, and Superman that try to get in his way. Despite how everyone gave in to the mob mentality and joined the mutants, Batman went about his moral pursuit. Despite how everyone got paralyzed by fear from Joker's chaos, Batman went about his moral pursuit. Despite how the White House ordered a god to capture and arrest him, Batman still went about his moral pursuit. This coincidentally is what made Batman v Superman fall apart. Even though Ben Affleck's Batman was a Randian hero, Henry Cavill's Superman wasn't exactly a conformist. He wasn't a pawn for the US government, and he was still trying to figure out his place in the world. Hence, it wasn't really about an individual going against the collectivist tide. All in all, if you inject Ayn Rand's philosophy into your story, you're almost guaranteed to have an epic story on your hands. Take Captain America: Winter Soldier as an example. This story features a Steve Rogers who went about his moral pursuit and fought against S.H.I.E.L.D.'s disagreeable standards, and surprise, surprise, Captain America: Winter Soldier is still regarded as one of the best films in the MCU. There's so many amazing things to say about The Dark Knight Returns. For instance, Carrie Kelly played a phenomenal role in the story. She wasn't a romantic interest to the main character or some sort of maternal figure. She was just a partner to Batman who had a passion to take on the roles and responsibilities that came along with being Robin. She's surprisingly a really positive and progressive representation of womanhood. She's a strong-headed, independent girl who's never played victim or a love interest. All in all, The Dark Knight Returns is just epic, masterfully done, and it deserves to be recognized as a piece of literature. But what do you think? What do you think makes The Dark Knight Returns so special? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe to Reverb Comics so that you do not miss out on our awesome content. Stay groovy.